Hey guys, how you doing? Eric at SoCal Cigars. So today I'm going to do a video. It is a request from one of my subscribers who is also a good friend of mine. His name is Michael Davis. We used to be in the Boy Scouts together. We're both assistant scoutmasters with our sons in. Had a lot of fun doing that, campouts and all the Boy Scout fun you can have. And we also now are in the same chapter and ride Harleys together. So we've been friends for quite a long time. And he hit me up the other day and asked, would you mind doing a cigar review if I send you a cigar? And I'm like, yeah, totally. What's the backstory? And he mentioned that he likes my reviews, but he noticed that a lot of the reviews I do are of pretty pricey cigars. I mean, I've done things from maybe on average $8 to $30 cigars, so maybe even higher. So I totally understand where he's coming from, because the whole point of this cigar is to be a budget-friendly stick. A lot of times what we would call like an everyday smoke. So if you're looking to smoke sometimes 2, 3, 4 cigars a day, you're not wanting to spend $10 a stick, and I get that. So we did go over the fact that one of my reviews is a cigar he does like that was kind of my everyday kind of budget-friendly cigar. It was the Drew Estates Isla del Sol, but he had brought up the fact that that is an infused cigar, and what he was looking to do was find a budget stick that was a, let's say, traditional tobacco rather than infused. So here's the deal. Here's what he sent me. Right here, we have a brand name, so it's not just an off-brand, weird, cheapy stick. This is a Rocky Patel, and this series is called The Edge. The bundle he's getting are 6x52s, and they are Maduro. So you are going to get that little extra hit, I think, just by having a Maduro wrapper over like a Connecticut or Sumatra. You're just going to get a little more flavor simply because it's a Maduro. So that's kind of a good insight as far as a budget-friendly stick. Even if you're not typically a Maduro person, maybe going with Maduro on a less expensive stick gives you that little extra hit of flavor you might not have normally gotten out of a Connecticut. So he's spending $58 for a bundle of 20. With tax and shipping, in the end, he's paying $2.90 for this stick. So the key is it worth it? You know, is it worth spending the $2.90, or is it worth upping it by a few dollars and getting more into a $4, $5, $6 stick because this one just isn't going to cut it? So that's what we're going to find out. So let's get into this sucker, right? First thing we're going to look at is the construction and the initial thought here. So Maduro, definitely tell it's Maduro. I'm right away, just from the outer wrapper, I'm getting that little bit of chocolate, a little bit of earth. Definitely getting that extra little bit of spice and flavor just because it's Maduro. So I really do think that's a little key on buying a budget stick, is to capitalize on maybe the wrapper to get a little more out of it than you would normally get. It smells really good. It's been in my humidor, so we're sitting at about 68 RH and about 72 on the temperature. The construction's okay. It's not amazing. There's a lot of like gaps in the outer wrapper, but it doesn't seem like it's penetrating through the binder, so I don't think you're gonna have any air leaks on this one. But it's definitely, you can tell this is not like, they're not using the best of the best leaf. This is clearly a stick made to be a budget stick. And there's also a lot of the ribs you're seeing from the leaf going through this. I'm seeing quite a few that are sticking out kind of predominantly, but that again doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be a bad tasting stick. It's just maybe not the highest of quality tobacco, but it doesn't mean it's not bad. The cap, you can see, is a little rough around the edges too. I mean, there's a 3-layer cap, but you can see, like, I don't know if you can even see it, but down here it's kind of dropping weird. The cap's a little loose on the top, kind of funky right here. But again, you're going to cut through that, so it's not going to be that big of a deal. It's a little spongy, and I can definitely tell there's pieces coming out. So what it looks like, and again, I'm not sure how well you can see that, but what it looks like is this is a little bit of a Cuban sandwich. So it looks like there's a lot of short filler in the middle, and there's maybe some long filler on the outside, just under the outside wrapper. just enough to kind of hold the inside part together. So I would definitely say this is at best a mixed filler cigar, which is fine because, again, one of my favorite budget sticks is the Isla del Sol, and that is absolutely a mixed filler cigar. So that doesn't mean it's a bad cigar. So, but again, if we're looking at the $290 price point, we need to be critical and take a look at the whole thing and see, in the end, is this really worth getting? So let's go ahead and cut this with the Calibri. Let's see how this is going to be. This is a deep V. Okay, so we're getting a little bit of crumbling, and it's probably because of the center being short filler. So it definitely has some pieces falling out, but it did hold together. It is above the cap line, so even with the deep V cut, the cap is deep enough to not let the outer wrapper start coming undone. Lot of pieces from that inner short filler, which is okay, because obviously once you get smoking this, that's going to kind of go away. It's got a medium draw, so you can tell, again, when you have short filler in the middle, you can get it kind of an inconsistent draw because the way the leaves are normally folded for a long filler. You're getting a lot of air channels going right through the tobacco, but when you're loading up short filler in the middle, a lot of times you're getting it kind of plugged up. So that's feels like probably what's happening here a little bit. But again, none of these are going to really necessarily affect the flavor. So again, this is just being very critical of the cigar, given that it's such a low price point. But yeah, I'd say construction-wise, it's good enough. Cap is good enough. The filler is holding in good enough. You know, it's fine. The key is going to be the flavor and how this thing burns. So we want to see the construction on the burn as well. So we're going to go ahead and toast the foot and see what we get here. You can definitely see the center is short filler, and that's okay. As long as it holds together and as long as it burns and it tastes good. So as you know, we never really going to judge a cigar off the first few pulls. We got to get into it about a 1/4 inch. But I do like to at least take a look at what that initial light taste is giving me anyway, even though I know it's a little bit misleading because when you're lighting, you're getting such a high burn temp that it's kind of masking what the tobacco is supposed to be, you know, the flavor profile is supposed to be when it's burning normally. So it's definitely not bitter, which is good. A lot of times with a budget stick, I'm concerned about it being bitter tobacco, because sometimes they're really just using the bottom end stuff. And this, again, being a Rocky Patel, being a brand name, I think that regardless, they're going to have some level of quality, given that they want to maintain their reputation, which is, as far as I know, Rocky Patel is a good cigar brand. I don't smoke a lot of them myself, but I know a lot of people that love Rocky Patel. So yeah, I'd say really off the bat, all you're really getting is kind of like that earthy note. The smoke is kind of a little more creamy, which is good. It's not like a bitter, not like got that bite to it, like you get that bite from a pipe tobacco. This is still a little bit smoother. But again, we've got to get into this thing at least about a 1/2 inch to an inch to really start to draw out the flavors and see what the flavor profile is going to end up being. But I can tell it looks like it's not going to be like a one-hit wonder. This is going to have some notes to it, which is, again, impressive for a stick under $3. Trying to retrohale a little bit. So I noticed the outer wrapper kind of got that little bit of a chocolatey, almost leaning towards a coffee note, but as of now, I'm not really tasting that. I'm really just getting kind of that creamy smoke and that earthy flavor. And you could definitely taste that this is a Maduro wrapper, which is good. Because like I said, I think that for the price point, I think if you're going to try to pull all the flavor you can out of an inexpensive cigar, you might as well just step up to the Maduro and already get some of the flavor from that wrapper that you're not going to get from a Connecticut. So far it's burning pretty good. You're getting a little bit of a wonky burn here, so it's dropping down a little bit, but again, we're just starting. Temp on my humidor is a little bit high. I don't like it to be up at the 72 range, but and the stick was at 68 when I would probably want to smoke it more at a 65, maybe like a 65 and a 68 temp, but it's not too spongy. It feels pretty good. It's not bad. In the end, even with a few draws on it, it's holding together. It's not like the center starting to come out or anything. It's constructed good enough to hold itself together, which is good for a short filler. You're not really getting anything bitter out of it, which is nice, which is borderline unexpected. I've had some pretty inexpensive cigars, and usually the first thing I notice is how bitter they can be. And so far they've masked that pretty well with this so far. Well, it's definitely a nice day. It's about 90. It's a little warm. You see it's a little windy, so you're gonna hear a little bit of noise. We got some airplanes flying over, which is pretty normal for us on the weekends. We're near kind of a cool little airport that restores a lot of World War II airplanes, so you get to, I don't know, every weekend we get a little mini air show going over our house, which is kind of cool. So yeah, really just getting that earthy tone, getting that kind of creamy smoke. We're only about a half inch into it, so not going to really be able to tell yet. I'm going to take a little break. I'm going to get down to maybe the halfway point, and I will come on back, and we will continue on with the review. Thank you, and hang on. All right, I'm back. So I didn't wait till the middle. I just wanted to touch a few points here. Like one, I was surprised the ash fell off pretty quickly, but again, being short filler on the middle and just having some outer leaves on the outside, they're probably long filler. The ash doesn't hold together as much as like a full long filler cigar. So and a lot of times people don't understand if there's any importance to keeping the ash on. There is. I tend not to ash my cigars unless it either falls on its own or it's really time to ash it. But what that does, they say, is it helps protect like the cherry, and it keeps it lit easier and longer. I did notice it's still kind of burning a little bit wonky. Not horrible. I mean, like I said, in the past, you touch it up a tiny bit, just hit that little edge that's kind of weird, and it'll start to burn straight again. I would say one thing I'm really impressed is that I did set it down and wait a little while just to see what would happen, to see if I could pick it back up and if it was still lit, and it was. So I gotta say, I've had better cigars that go out all the time. So a lot of times that is humidity in your storage, but this one is pretty typical of how I store my cigars lately, and it stayed lit, so it was not an issue. I was pretty impressed with that. I was almost a little bit concerned about doing this. You might be able to hear it in my voice. I mean, I know I always have sinus problems, but you could probably maybe see it in my face and hear it in my voice and my lungs. I've been out of commission for almost 3 weeks. Let's just say I won't go into it, but I did finally catch it, and had me down and out. In fact, I lost several days. I went to bed on a Wednesday and I woke up on a Friday, and it hit me pretty hard. So this is actually my first cigar that I've been able to smoke since I was not feeling well. So, but again, I didn't really lose my sense of smell or my sense of taste, which I know a lot of people have said, and but I'm definitely getting like a congestion going on. So, in fact, I had a little gathering for 4th of July, and I love smoking cigars with my brother-in-law, sister-in-law, Moose and Connie, and I sat here while they smoked one. I couldn't even smoke one, so this is actually my first cigar since then. Trying to hold everything together. The wind is going crazy, but I would definitely say so far, for the $2.90 price point, so far this has been pretty good. I'm pretty impressed. And again, I think that's part of it, is that if you're going to buy a budget stick, I think it does help that you're buying a brand name, because I know you can get a lot of these, I don't know, just what they call Fuma, like a pack of 20 and 25 like bundles that they're just, I mean, you might as well just say like Bob's cigar on it, and they're just some random cigar, and a lot of times they're not great. Sometimes if something's too cheap, it's almost still not worth it. I mean, you could say, well, God, it was so inexpensive that why not? But sometimes it's still inexpensive, but it tastes like dog crap. So why would you bother? I'd rather just not do it. Again, at that rate, I'd rather spend a few more bucks. A quick little story about that is that my mother-in-law had told me a story one time when she was still living in Denmark, that she had gone out to a very fancy restaurant and they had ordered literally like a $1,500 bottle of wine. And she actually felt kind of bad afterwards because, someone else had paid for it, and, like kind of to impress everyone. And she said that she sort of felt bad for him and she didn't say anything at the time, but later she had told me that it really was no better than some $15 bottles of wine she's had. So again, a lot of times it's not necessarily just the price you're spending, it's whether you like it or not. And that can be true for a lot of things, including whiskeys and different alcohols, wine, cigars, food. I mean, there's a lot of things in life where it seems like sometimes when you're paying more, you're actually getting more quality and a better product. I've also found that's not always the case. Sometimes things can be pretty cheap and still really good. So it's really going to come down to your taste. Again, this is my taste. And what I'm saying about this so far is that it's earthy. The smoke is creamy. It's not bitter. I am getting a little bit of a kind of an aftertaste in my mouth that's so far okay. Sometimes when you have a really good cigar, you kind of appreciate that kind of aftertaste that's lingering because you can kind of taste the cigar for a while. Other times when it's not a great cigar, you're kind of like trying to get that taste out of your mouth. But so far this is holding to be okay. I am pairing it with a little cream soda action. And I think that's probably the best non-alcoholic pairing you can ever have, is either like a vanilla cream soda, root beer, things in that nature. Kind of that little bit of a sugary hit seems to really cut through, especially if you get like a little bit of a bitter cigar. That pairing really seems to help mellow that back out. And it's mellowing this out too. This is still good though. So when I retrohale, I would say I am getting a little hint of that kind of chocolatey flavor. It's very subtle. I definitely could smell it when I first unwrapped the cigar. But what you smell on the cigar on the outside doesn't necessarily mean what you are going to taste on the inside. And you'll, especially my pipe smoking friends out there, you'll definitely understand that, because I've smelt some pipe tobaccos that, it smells like candy, like you want to eat it. They're so rich and vanilla and aromatic. It's literally like smelling candy. And then you smoke it and you're like, where did all that flavor go? It almost it's almost like you're just tasting like tobacco from a cigarette. So the smell can be very misleading, but not always. Like this one, like I said, it smelled rich and it tastes rich. I could smell that Maduro and you could taste it. I had a hint of that chocolate and I'm getting a hint. So this is holding fairly accurate to what I got off the initial smelling of the wrapper, let's say. So I'd say what you're going to get with this is, I'd say a decent stick. Now, some circles that might not cut it. In other circles, that's good enough. Is it fantastic? Not necessarily. It's not overwhelmingly flavorful and amazing. I've definitely had some cigars that I smoked that I'm just like in awe of. like a Padron. But again, you're paying for the 64 or the 26th anniversary. You're paying, sometimes I've seen them $30-35 a piece. You're almost buying 20 of these for one cigar of that one. But I can tell you, when you smoke it, it's impressive, and you're like, wow, this is pretty much worth it. But again, this is a different category. This is the everyday smoke, stick on a budget. At $2.90, would I say, is this worth buying and smoking? I'm going to say it is. I would say for that price point, not bad. And so what situation might that work out in? So, because I'm always thinking of different situations where do I want to spend my money? And where do I want to, maybe, let's say, please the masses? So, there's plenty of situations where I'm in that I have a lot of people over and I want to, like everyone, have a cigar, right? But in the end, I can't necessarily afford to give 20 people a $35 cigar. And the other issue with that is a lot of times when a big group of people are smoking cigars together, there's always going to be some novices in there that actually wouldn't even appreciate that $35 cigar anyway. So in a situation like this, if I was going to have a big group of people over and I needed to just have a quantity of some decent cigars for people to smoke, this would be fine. I would, like a litmus test for me might even be like my brother and sister-in-law, Moose and Connie, that I talk about. I would bet if I gave them this cigar, they would say that wasn't a bad cigar. It's pretty good. And they smoke a lot of cigars, and have a pretty good palate. I would say they would probably be happy with this cigar. I would put this almost on line with another stick that I get that's not that expensive. It's that Chupacabra. I'm a big fan of that. I would say that some of the flavor profile of this cigar is very similar to that Chupacabra, and you're probably spending, I've seen it as high as $10, $11 a stick. So I'd say it's pretty good to say that they're pretty comparable for under $3. Yeah, I mean, I would say getting into this about halfway, it's I'm picking up. It's still not bitter, and it's teetering because I hate bitter cigars. I hate spicy cigars. I mean, I know a lot of people love spicy cigars. I'm not a big fan. I'm always more towards the creamy. I love vanilla. I love those type of creamy flavors. Not into the peppery, spicy stuff. I'm not getting that off this. I'm not getting any pepper. I'm not getting any spice. And I'm really not getting anything bitter. It's holding its own. It's like in my mouth, I'm trying to figure out, is this thing going to flip over to being like a bitter aftertaste? And so far, it's not making the flip. It's staying okay, which is pretty good. Yeah, I'd say so far so good. Let's get down a little bit further. So I'm probably barely halfway. So let's go a little bit deeper, and then I'm going to give you my final review of this cigar and see what we think. Is it worth the $3? Let's find out. Hang on. Okay, guys, here we go. We are down to the nub. What is my final take on this cigar? I will argue even all the way down to the bottom, it stayed good. Didn't get really bitter. Maybe a little bit of bitterness, but I think that's expected when you're getting to a cigar it's down to the very end. A lot of times I'm not even going to smoke a cigar this far down. So what would I say? I'd say in the end, I got, for $2.90, I got a decent to good cigar. I would say I got a creamy smoke, earthy, a little bit of a touch of chocolate. Definitely that Maduro wrapper coming through, which I think was a big advantage to a less expensive stick. I would say for these different situations, if you're the type that only smokes a cigar very occasionally, and you're not looking to smoke $35 cigars, this would be a perfect smoke to have in a desktop humidor. so that you've got a little stockpile of cigars, and this is a good every once in a while smoke. I'd say if you're the type, I had a friend I used to work with, he must have smoked 4 to 6 cigars a day. I'd say if you're the type that's that's smoking multiple cigars a day, and you need to stay on a budget stick that's a good smoke but isn't going to break the bank, this would fit that category well as well. And I would also say, like I said before, if I was going to have 20, 25, 30 people over and I needed to maybe blend a humidor with some quantity of cigars that are good, this would fill that bill. Blend it in with maybe some better higher end cigars for the more discerning guests that are cigar smokers that would appreciate that. So I would think this would make a good this would backfill for maybe having kind of a cigar gathering, a cigar night for the guys or the girls or the couples. I mean, I know I have a very mixed group of people that smoke, and like I said before, my sister-in-law, she probably smokes more cigars than I do. So I think this could fit that bill nicely as well. So thank you, Michael, for sending me this cigar. I would definitely say Rocky Patel did a good job on a $2.90 cigar that I would have no problem smoking this cigar again. And another thing this might hit well for too is when I go to Missouri and we go fishing and stuff, this would be a really nice cigar to have just while you're fishing, and because sometimes you drop them, sometimes you're not really just sitting and enjoying a cigar as much as you're smoking a cigar doing another activity. Again, so am I going to really sit and fish with like a $35, $40 Hemingway or a really good Padron? Probably not. I would probably reserve that for when I really want to sit down and actually focus on having a really nice cigar. I think this would fit the bill nicely for a cigar that you're smoking while you're doing another activity like riding the Harleys or taking a break in between riding and stuff, fishing, outdoor stuff. I mean, that would be fantastic. So again, would I say buy this? Yes, I would say give this a shot. Again, Rocky Patel, the Edge, it's a 6x52 Maduro. And again, you're down to $58 for a bundle of 20, shipping and tax and all that, $2.90. I say give it a go. If this sounds like something that might fill that need you have for any of these scenarios I've given you, this would work. So again, thank you very much. I appreciate you guys watching. Hope this was helpful. And again, don't be afraid to try some less expensive sticks. Not every cigar you smoke has to be a $30 cigar. It's not always practical, and sometimes, again, even if you just want to smoke half this stick and you don't have enough time, you throw half of it into the ashtray and walk away from it. You're also not like going, oh God, I just ditched half of a $40 cigar. Yeah, you're not going to care so much. So again, I think when it comes to fitting a certain criteria, there's a place for a cigar like this, and I would say give it a shot. So again, hope you enjoy the rest of your weekend, and I will see you on the next video. Again, Eric at SoCal Cigars. Take it easy, go have a nice smoke, and I'll see you next time. Thanks.